Hey everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today I would love to show you how you can create in acrylic on canvas this set of stacked stones, glowing candle, this really zen composition. To help me do that is my husband John.
Hey guys.
He's going to make sure that you can see every part of the techniques that I'm teaching and the demo and everything so that you can create this for yourself at home. Now you can just do this single painting and that is completely okay, but it is part of a 30 painting series that I would love to encourage you or at least invite you to take part of. Get your paint, get your brushes, come back and meet me with these right now. We're going to paint these Zen stones. The colors we're going to be using in today's palette are phthalo blue, phthalo green, burnt sienna, cad yellow medium, cad red medium, Mars black, Naples yellow light. I have some titanium white, and for the background, I have a little bit of extra Mars black and burnt sienna. As usual, we're going to be painting on an 8x8 surface, and to begin this, I want to put a nice acrylic ground on there like we've been doing. So I'm going to take these two colors and let's mix them together, and I might even mix it loosely, which means I'm not going to mix them too thoroughly together. They're just kind of sort of incorporated. Think of it like folding batter is a good way of thinking of it. Yeah, John?
Yeah.
I'm going to get my brush wet. This is my big brush. And I am going to paint the whole thing this color.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. So I paint all the sides and everything around the canvas. And I like to dry it. That way, when I do this next part, it's a little bit easier. Because I'm going to be using the gridding method to take the image from my reference and duplicate it on my surface. And to do that, I'm going to take my T-square and I will go ahead and mark out a 1x1 grid. Once I have my grid laid in, I'm going to number the squares 1 through 8, and that will help me follow my grid reference. Then after that, all I'm going to do is draw exactly the contour lines, the lines that I see in each square. So I'll show you where I start, and then we'll just go through that together really fast. So on row 2, horizontal row 2, vertical line 3, I have a little line of the top stone that comes out round and ends right there. We come over on row 2 into space 4, and it sort of tilts up a bit and then goes down there. I'm going to do this process through the entire grid. So that's how you complete step 1. We put in an acrylic ground. We use the gridding method to copy our image over onto the surface of our canvas. And now we're ready to move on to step 2, where we begin laying in the project. Step 2. Now we're going to start refining our diffuse background, our nice, soft, warm background, and start putting in the ambience and atmosphere here. And it's going to be all on the outside of the contour of our objects here. To do that, I'm going to use my number 8 cat's tongue. You could use a filbert, a round, or a bright. Any of that's fine. I just wanted something in the size range that would let me work around these curves easily. Are you ready to get into this, John?
I am.
So let's take a little of our cad red into our Naples yellow light, and it's going to give us the most extraordinary warm peach color. Really rather fond of this, and we're going to paint all this on the outside in, and there's going to be kind of like it's going to get a little darker and moodier as we go back. But right now, let's work the contours, paint the contours of our objects, and then we can paint in the spaces around those contour lines. So just a little bit of contour line painting, right? You can see my chalk lines are easily going away.
And this is just covering really well.
It does. The Naples yellow light is got a very high coverage, and the cad red also, so it does pretty well. You can paint around the sides. That's a nice thing to do if you want. And you'll notice that my brush strokes are very loose and painterly. I'm not trying to be smooth or tight with those in any way. I'm just grooving along. Hopefully you guys at home are grooving along. I hope you guys are doing okay. Take a deep breath now that you're in the project. You know, we get so determined in the beginning of these projects. We're like very serious about our
Mm.
art. When we start out, we're like, I'm going to make the greatest painting that ever was. Instead of remembering just to have the greatest experience during the painting that we can. I think that's a hard lesson to learn, that being in the now of the painting
Yeah.
and of life. And just any in the now is difficult, in my opinion.
That presence, they talk about that a lot in meditation.
Kind of a good subject for this particular painting. I'm adding a little more red to that there. And you can see I'm just brushing over. I want coverage, but I do want there to be like kind of a loose, brushy effect here. Yeah, I think in painting, we're especially guilty of not being in the now because we're often thinking of past painting experiences that went well or didn't go well. And we're also projecting into the future of what we would like from this particular painting experience.
Mm.
So it's sort of always an ongoing thing. Now, this line, where it was between 6 and 7, that actually is our horizon line. So my background won't go past that. I can come and get a little of my burnt sienna into this. And maybe a little more red. And you can see it makes this sort of interesting, nice, deeper color. Not really a brown, not really a red or an orange, just richer. And against this brown background is a beautiful blend. In
Mm.
my opinion. In my opinion, that's what it is.
Well, it's your painting.
That's right. But they might have a different feeling at home, and that's okay. You don't got to like all the things that I like. There we go. Just brushing that all around.
Just
Making
get
sure
all
that's...
the sides.
Yeah, just fill it in. Feel good about it. Using more Naples yellow light where I want some lighter tonal values. And I will go around just again the stones just to make sure that I've got a nice contour around the stones. I felt like I had lost some of that there, as you do sometimes when you're painting. You get into your groove.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after that, we'll put the bottom in, which is sort of like the table surface that this is all sitting on, because these don't just float up into space, even though they're very zen. They have to remain grounded.
Mm.
So to ground that, I'm going to take just some of my black and a little of my burnt sienna, and I'm going to just loosely mix, come down here with this darker color. Got a little bit high there. Got to bring this back down to where my chalk line was. Sometimes that'll happen. You'll be like, I paint all the table. And then you're like, oh, too much table. Contour around the stones again. I'll
get
bring
around
my
that corner.
horizon over here. Because even in a still life like this, you can kind of have a horizon line going. And you want one. Yes, you do. Doing well. All right, so look. How chill was that? It's already kind of cool looking. It's got a bit of a glow. It's step 2. Boom, boom. We've knocked it out. 1, 2. You guys are doing so good. I can't wait to show you step 3. So step 3, and an interesting thing happened in step 3. I realized that I missed a part of the background from step 2. And sometimes this will happen to you. You'll be going along and because there's a shape and you don't necessarily visually recognize it, you may not think to work it. So first, let's make sure we finish step 2 as you would want to. We don't always edit these things out because we feel like it's good for you guys to know that this happens to everybody. You know, I try not to make things like so slick and curated that you miss all the real kind of artist moments that are going on.
One might say there's no danger of that happening.
No, there's none. Is there no danger of me having like slick all the time artist moments
or,
or us
or,
editing it out?
or me just producing it so slickly that it's just, oh,
Aw, you're so sweet. But that's just something important, and that can happen to anybody. And now you can kind of see the contour of that whole picture even a little bit better.
mm,
Now, when I'm painting, it bears repeating. We work our background and our objects as they come forward. The way that they're layered in the canvas kind of tells us the order in which we paint them. So, if you're looking at a sky, that's the furthest back thing you see. You can start with the sky and then the mountains and then the middle ground trees. You just move forward. Same thing here. So the next part of the objects that I have going on are my stones. And you would think the twig, because it's behind these stones, but because this leaf layers in front, it actually comes after. And let's start kind of laying in the stones. Now the stones have two kind of lighting things that they're dealing with. They're lit in their still life, but there's the candle light. So we've got to deal with both lighting effects, interestingly enough. I'm going to take a little bit of my black and some of my blue. Kind of an interesting color. And I'm going to start working my stones and talking about their shadows a bit. Just right under there where the stone is joining. And again, a little bit on this base. I mean, sometimes these are sort of obvious. There's a bit of one here and coming across the stone. And as we're doing these sort of daily paintings, these are good to pay attention to, right? Because you're just trying to capture and think about, well, where are these shadows? Where are these objects placed? How is the light working? Because this is teaching you a lot about complex light, right? And come here. And a little bit around the edge. We've got this candle here, and see, that is what is making things very interesting for us. Taking this down. And again, this is a little more blue. Shading here. There's almost like a little convex on that one.
yeah.
We're just being chill in this painting. It's chill art day. It's both a Zen painting and a Zen art day. To that end, don't forget to breathe.
Mm.
We often hold our breath while we're painting.
Better to not do that when you're painting.
It's preferable that one does not do that when one is painting. That's looking pretty good. Kind of doing a similar thing over here. And blue into the black and blue mixture. Coming back and forth here. It's interesting how the candle impacts the stones, their lighting.
Right, yeah.
I'm just going to continue to leave that space where the glow, the candlelight, is going to be greatly impactful.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, you know that underneath the stone, obviously solid object, any light coming from the top would be blocked. But then to remember that there's a bit of a side shadow, happening there. Now, I don't want to get in too much to the detail at this moment, but I do need to start lightening it up. So I'm going to take a little of my blue and black and add some white into it. It's kind of a gray color. We have a lot that we're doing here, but right now let's just try to get these broad strokes in. You can always go back with a darker color if you're like, oh, there's a darker color right here. That's what we're doing. We're finding kind of the deepest shadow and the mid-tones. We're trying to think about how we're going to get that on the painting. Trying to think about how we're going to get that on the painting. Come over the top here, shaping that stone. These are very, very the beginnings,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. Come
It
here and
does.
kind of get a middle gray there. Middle gray. Working that through our other stack is also a good idea.
This is just some of those layers.
Yeah, we're just starting to think about how this is on the stone.
Let's see here. We're on step 3. Is that right?
Yes, we are on step 3. So early days. Early days. There are layers left to do.
1 or 2 or 3.
1 or 2 or 3. You know, if we paint out a shadow that we need, we can always put it back in. We are not stressed about that.
I like that color.
What do you think so far, Mr. Cooney?
I like the stones.
You like stones?
Mm-hmm.
I think we all kind of have a fondness for stones. Like skipping them.
These are very stacked stones.
Yeah, we're just stacking the stones. You can kind of see that first run of ranges that we're getting. And make sure that I layer these well, though. All right. So that's sort of just loosely roughed in. We've got a little idea. It's going to be about refining this and giving this some texture and everything. That's going to be what we do in step 4. But right now, you just want to find some of your deep shadows and start painting in the rough values and the rough shape of your rocks. All right, I'm going to show you on step 4 on how to light these up and kind of make them a glow and give them a little texture.
All right.
So for this next part, I really want to capture some of the stone texture, not just the light and dark of the stone shape, but also the texture. So here for step 4, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and put some of that like dry brushing and that scumbling in. I'm going to be using my number 8 Cambridge, which has got a mix of hog bristles and synthetic. So it's going to be great for dry brushing. I'm going to come and get a little bit of my CAD red and my CAD yellow, interestingly enough. And
Oh.
I might add a little blue and brown into it as we do, you know. And I'm going to begin to create sort of a rough start of a little bit of a glow.
Looks kind of a scumble.
Yeah, it's a bit of a scumble. I'm trying to move the brush around and be over the surface of the canvas. Let's put one right here. And what's great is we'll finish with the number 4 round to sort of crisp the edges of the stones, but this is going to let us maybe really. And you can go back and you can see the dry brushing really just skips over the canvas. You can see the load of the brush. I haven't even gotten any water into it. Come here, like kind of in that middle. Now right here, there's quite a lot of this orange, which was the CAD yellow, CAD red, burnt sienna. Maybe a little bit more there. Very dry.
That's just going to provide that warm side.
Yeah, it's giving us a little bit of a thought of the warm, right? But we've got to actually do some interesting things with it. So here I have this color, right, which is my all this, but I'm going to start mixing it actually, interestingly enough, into my gray mixture because I need some stone. So kind of weaving back into where the glow is. Kind of see how that is, right?
Yeah.
A little bit weaving back in. We're sort of diffusing these layers out. There's a little bit up there, and they're getting looser. I'm gonna pull that in. Now I'm gonna do the rare rinse out because I kind of want to blend a couple little zones of color in. And right now they're sort of like amorphous little blobs of something. Let's get a little bit of our brown and black together as well. Kind of a dark value. On the corner of my brush, you can kind of see I'm wiggling it. Really look at your reference to see where you're putting, your highlights and your shadows. I'm going to rinse out again a little bit. Doing pretty good. I feel like there's just a couple more spaces I can kind of work some of this. Sometimes it's nice to take your yellow, and interestingly enough, your black, and it makes kind of this yellow gray. It's another interesting stone color. Different than the other two. And this is
Oh,
me kind of like roughly.
it really just sort of gets a lot of shape. It just goes from just,
No shape to some shape to some texture, right?
yeah.
I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just. My mom used to say that to me, like, don't reinvent the wheel. I was like, well, what if there's a better wheel? Now, I feel like on these little highlights, we've got a little brighter, rougher highlight that we can get into. And that is the cad red into the cad yellow.
Mm.
I'll wipe off here because we want it to be a little more yellow. And I might even get into my Naples. Add some titanium white, quite a compound mix, but I need some bright focus right here.
It looks really nice.
See, it's just a wiggle. Now, when you're on your canvas, if you have it painted in this sort of dry brushing effect, you might look at it and be like, oh man, this is not working, when actually it's working quite fine. And get a little more of the red into this. little bit of these wonderful. Ooh, I like that.
Mm.
Sometimes I like to look at where I can put something. But you see that this is very rough. Okay, that was the end of step 4. We're going to go on to step 5 where we resolve these edges and start pulling these stones into shape. So now we're going to go on to step 5. We're going to add some sharper, more defined edges to our stones and help pull them into very distinctive shapes. We're going to be doing that with our number 4 round. I'm going to get my brush wet, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come get a little of my black on there. And even some of my blue, because this was our nice dark shadow color, if you guys remember. And I'm going to come underneath the stones, adding this very deep kind of little range of shadow right here. Just pulling this around. The tip of my brush. And you can see it's just giving them some shape there.
This painting is so quiet and zen.
It
We're
is a
all like,
quiet Zen painting, isn't
ooh,
it?
we're all falling into the quiet zenness.
I think we are, and that's okay. Like, I think painting is supposed to do that, for us.
Some days on
Now,
these daily journeys.
I think I'm gonna kind of wiggle this brush here at this edge. As you're seeing, just to fuse this a bit. I'm just using that wiggling brush method to kind of diffuse that shape. And you can see those stones are getting into their own space. They're being into their own zones. They need their own zones, these stones. Wiggle a little bit of this dark shadow right here. And a bit comes in. I'm just wiggling that in. And underneath this one here. Currently underneath on the table. That looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So that we just have a little more definition, right? We have a little more, oh, that's kind of happening there. Now we know that we have our this base stone color, so we can come in and get a little bit of our white into the mix. You can even kind of tone it with, interestingly enough, a little bit of our Naples yellow. Add a little depth there. And you can kind of see it's like a little bit of a wiggle. It's just a little bit of a touch. Back up for my canvas a little bit. I'm rinsing my brush and I'm going to kind of reduce that line. You can see that.
Mm.
And that's something we forget that we can do. We can reduce a line or smooth something out if we're like, oh, this needs a bit of a thing. Yeah, we just gave it a bit of a thing, didn't we? Okay, let's keep going. All right, there we go. Now over here we have a bit of this too. Touching little places where those little reflections could be. you know, and take that in. Can you see your stones? Do they feel like stones? If they feel really stonish, you're doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a little bit of our cad yellow and add a bit of our titanium white. Right here, I want to add maybe a thoughtful little hot spot. You can see that. And I may have to adjust this hot spot even more after I get the candle in. Get our little hot spots. Remove that accidental hot spot. And if you get too much of a hot spot, guess what you can do? You just come back, a bit of orange, and you can soften it, can't you?
Mm.
So even if it gets away from you and you're not in trouble, you just make adjustments to it, and half the time it'll end up being better for the adjustment.
Because layers.
Because layers. Adding a little bit of these little pops of highlight on our stones just to give them that, ooh, I got a glow. There's a glow in my heart. The glow in my heart. All right. So now for the next part, we're going to put in our bamboo, right? Because we got this beautiful little calming sense of bamboo.
Mm-hmm.
So when we come back, I'm going to show you how to do bamboo. What step will that be, darling? 6?
6, yeah.
6. We're on step 6 for the bamboo fix. Are you ready to fix the bamboo? Okay, meet me for 6. So now we have some drama, we have some space, our stones are kind of resolved in here, and we need to put our really wonderful bamboo. I'm going to start the bamboo, interestingly enough, with the leaves. So let's begin with our darkest value, which is going to be our phthalo green and our burnt sienna. I'm going to just paint this in on the tip of my brush. And I'm going to let the brush kind of like wander up so that the little leaf is a bit delicate and kind of pointy at the end. As bamboo sometimes can be.
Hmm.
You know, bamboo's a grass.
I did know that.
Yes, very, very aggressive grass. Which you're not allowed to grow in some parts of the United States.
It's too aggressive.
Too aggressive. And also because we have a shocking lack of pandas, there's just no way to manage it. Because only pandas manage bamboo, right? I don't know what else eats bamboo besides pandas. Got to be a lot of stuff. I wonder what things eat bamboo.
I don't know.
I don't either. Isn't it fun to run into something that you have no idea? Just painting all these leaves.
For a minute, I was going to say koalas, but they eat eucalyptus.
They're, yeah, totally different continent.
Yeah. But, you know, they're.
I'm not saying they wouldn't. Like, for all we know, if you put a koala in a bamboo tree, like, I can shout down on this too. Easier than eucalyptus. Cool. We don't know. We don't know what that koala experience is.
It lacks the minty freshness that they desire.
I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my background is nice and tight around some of these spots. So if I kind of lost some of it, just painting around that just a little bit, just to keep it neat and tidy, right? Then we're going to come in with yellow and burnt sienna. I'm going to pull that into the leaves. I can even take that sort of up through a leaf. Very nice little run of color. And because it's all sort of blending wet into wet, Well, that's looking very good. Check that out. So we got that first layer on there. But paintings are nothing without layers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to continue to build up the highlights and the shadows. I think kind of working on the stem a little bit. Let's put out a little more black. I'm going to grab my Mars Black and put out a little more. Get my burnt sienna and tone that. And interestingly enough, you think that the shadow would be on the other side, but because of the stones, we actually have a shadow here.
Hmm.
Because there's a light coming from a different direction. When you ever have two kind of counterpoint light things, you will deal with that. And I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow and like at the base of the stems going in. So that sort of pops that a bit. Now we can get into our bright greens, which are super fun. Let's take a bit of our cadmium yellow and mix right into that deep green we originally did. Let's start to lighten the bamboo.
Mm.
There we go.
That's really starting to look cool.
Around the edges here. Pull that through. I'm going to put that a couple places, sir.
Hmm. I would expect you would. You're just using a round.
Just on the toe of my round. I'm using a fairly dry brush style. Going over my dark value. You can see the dark value helps give wealth. I guess that's a way to word it, is wealth to my lighter value.
A diversity of tone.
You need some. It's important. Keep pulling this forward. I can always go back into my darker value. Kind of blend those wet into wet. So once that color mix is there, you're kind of super good. And this is great, but we actually need a little bit more picking up into it. So I'm going to go into my yellow here. I'm going to add a little titanium white. Yellow, and let's add kind of a highlight right there. Couple places. Continuing to add a bit of that. Oh, I like these greens running together. They're just fun. Just building those up. Here at the tip, I'm going to use my yellow and my green, and I'm going to get, actually, interestingly enough, a little bit of my cad red into it and see if I can't.
Oh, yeah.
Blend a little bit of that in. You know, you just want to be looking, looking, looking. Be like, how's it going? Looking, looking, looking. Now, to get a nice fine line, I thin with water. I bring like 1 drop, 2 drops. You know, you just bring your water in where you've got to thin it. Add that there, just that little veining. And pop a highlight on that. I like to say that, pop a highlight. Pop that highlight on there. Just enjoy that balance, that green that's happening in your surface. Adding a little bit of phthalo. I don't want to lose the structure. on that forward leaf. Just playing with those values and those hues and everything until I'm super happy, which I'm cool now. I'm super cool. All right. Woo!
Yeah.
How awesome is that? What are we on to now, Mr. Cooney? Can't count today. He knows.
7.
7! Oh, seven's going to be fun because we're going to be getting into the candle. You guys ready to do the candle?
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to do the candle. All right, let's do that. Okay, so for 7, we're going to start putting in our candle, and we're going to work on that glow. This whole series, I think I really was attracted to a lot of candle imagery.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting to me for sure. So I'm going to take my cad red and my cad yellow and mix together kind of a medium orange. And I'm going to come here with my number 4 round and just paint in the starting point of my candle. Now, as we get away from the wick in candles, our wax tends to get darker. Just a thing that happens. Adding a little more red there. And then as we approach the flame, it gets more and more like bright and lit and a glow. So for this purpose, I've got to get the yellow involved. I'm going to have to tell yellow on my red. I don't know. It's really weird. But I'm going to come and just take a little bit of this and mix a lighter shade of that orange. And while this is still wet, we'll blend these together like you do. Just a nice starting place. And then as we go, we can add a little more white into it and yellow into it. And we will kind of start talking about the center. It's going to be happening here. Of our candle. Pulling that down. You can kind of see it's beginning to happen for us.
Mm-hmm.
Come back, maybe work the mid-orange a bit for the bottom. Now blending, blending, blending. Now, to continue going, I've got to let this dry. I can either dry it with my hair dryer or I can find something else on the surface to work. And I will go ahead and work the glow around and under the candle. So I'm going to take my yellow and make a kind of red, yellow red. So it's more biased to the red. And I'm going to come under here and wiggle back and forth. Just some glow that's happening. Dry brushing, just a little bit of a touch, a thought, because like the light just comes through. Pretty good. Might come and get a little more of my cad red. Always sort of exciting. And that gives, what you've got going on here. Let's clean up a little bit of our chalk with a wet brush. That gives your paint a little second to settle or have a think about and let you come in and find some other ways that you're going to do this. I'm going to take a little of my Naples yellow light and my cadmium white. I'm going to come on this outer edge. Working this outer edge. Let's put a little bit of that thoughtfulness right here. Maybe a bit coming around. Smooth that out. I'm going to get my yellow and a smidge of my white in that center. paint under my highlight. I'm going to put just the yellow. Get a little bit of that orange on there and kind of trim that a little more into where it was. Just finding the space and shape and glow of that to start with. I'm going to get a little black and come here and add a wick, as they have. Now, to finish this, I really got to dry this and come back and add the flame and the final highlights. So that's going to be step, John knows, 8?
8.
8! To finish the whole thing. Can you believe it? We're in 8 steps going to finish this whole thing? I can't believe it. I do believe it, though, because it's going to happen. You watch it happen.
Here goes.
Okay. So at this stage, we're going to put in our last few highlights, just anything that's resolving the painting and get our flame in. I'm still going to be working my number 4 round. I'm going to rinse it out. And let's start with our flame. Now, to begin the flame, sort of interestingly enough, I'm going to begin with white, which is actually the hottest part of my flame, but it also helps me get the rest of it in. And I'm going to bring 2 kind of little S curves up together. And I am going to leave a bit of a halo. How much water on my brush on that one? Sometimes you have too much water. So what you do is you just come in with a little more paint. And that happens. And then you just dry it real quick with a hairdryer. So let me do that real quick so it's good. Okay. That should be chill enough to handle everything else. While it's still resolving, and it looks pretty good right now, doesn't it, John? Just with a white flame. But we're going to finish it up. Let's get into our Naples yellow light and just make sure that we have a bit of a kind of light aspect around. I'm going to get into my white a bit and come on this outside edge, making sure that that's very, very bright because that's going to help it glow. It's going to help it really, find itself. Now, in the candle flame, I'm going to go ahead and grab some of my yellow and I'm going to come on the outside edge. A little bit of white. Outside edge. You can see it's got a little bit of a yellow cast to it. White there at that base. I like to add a little run of sort of like an orange at the tip of the wick that's a little more biased yellow right here. Always sort of fun to add that touch. And then I can even come in and get a little bit of like cad red and get that in there. It makes it feel like it's got a little ember going on.
Yeah. It's a nice little touch.
Little touch. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my white and my blue. Too much water. I'm getting too much water on my brush is that when I rinse out, I'm not wiping off the handle. And so what that does is it travels down the brush then. But you can see what I'm trying to do is make sure that the flame is like softly diffused and is coming up. Right? We've got our nice reflections here and there. You can check and see, were you missing any reflections? I actually feel like this is pretty darn perfect. What I was trying to do today. Hopefully you do as well.
You gotta sign it though.
I gotta sign it. You gotta sign it. I hope you sign it. Gotta decide what to sign it in. And I think I'm gonna take a little bit of my black and white and blue. kind of all together, making a gray color with my number one monogram liner. And just very delicately right here, I'll come in and sign. In this painting, this is a fairly neutral color. All right. So hopefully you had fun. I had fun. I hope you found today's painting session to be both relaxing and informative. I really love being able to demonstrate to you how glow is created, how stone textures are created, all the fun information. There was a really great bunch of color mixes that happened there. So hopefully it was a lot of fun and you found some skills that you're going to carry in your personal art box forever. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is part of a 30 painting series, and to entice you to come back, tomorrow we're going to be doing this gorgeous pouring wine into a glass. And that's going to teach us a lot about how to paint effects like water and see-through fluid objects that I think you're really going to like. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye!